Hey everyone.
Hi.
This is Ken.
Hi.
Oh no. Too much appletini. What are you having?
I don't fucking know.
What does it consist of?
It's Applejack and sparkling apple cider.
So cereal with sparks, right? That's what you're having?
Sure. Let's go with that.
That sounds awesome.
I think you're drunk.
I feel like the most sober person here.
Well, I mean, Chris is always drunk, so...
That I'm right.
Constantly.
Okay, so what you guys are about to listen to, this is not the podcast. This is the intro to the podcast, to Project Batman episode 14. So what happened is I'm in a writing class that I take in Charlottesville, Virginia every Tuesday.
Which you would know if you fucking paid attention to the podcast.
Yeah, but like Stan Lee says, every comic is somebody's first comic. So we have to make this accessible to people. Asshole! Okay, so coincidence, fate, whatever you want to call it, it struck and two timelines meshed up perfectly where I had to turn in the first act of a screenplay I'm working on for my class to review at the same time that we approached that benchmark. What is
Nail in the board.
ladder rung?
Space Noodle.
Yeah, Space Noodle. So I reached the Space Noodle on this podcast to have the first act written out, the first draft of it. So I wrote that, you guys went over it, we tweaked it, and then I sent it straight to everyone in class, and then I recorded that entire conversation of their criticism. And we're being released 2 episodes a week right now, so right now you're going to hear my class's criticism, and then later in the week, or the beginning of next week, depending on when this comes out, because we're a little ahead of schedule and I'm not sure right now, but on the next episode you'll get to hear our reaction to their reaction. So enjoy it. This is my writing class, and they're all I think it's a good thing because they're all other people who are thinking about script writing as well, like story structure and shit like that. But you'll hear more of the regular episodes next episode. Until then, I'm Ken.
Who am I?
God damn it.
I'm Chris.
Oh, Otto. That's right. That's who I am.
Yeah.
No, you're Jim Bob.
Fuck. I always get those two confused.
Sean's missing in action. I think he is a superhero. That's why he's so quiet and reserved.
He's the procrastinator.
Well, he is always late.
I'll save them eventually.
Wait, was this an Amanda Bynes bit?
Yes, it was an Amanda Bynes bit.
But that was a good bit.
It was a good bit.
It was.
Yeah.
Amanda show.
A minute ago I thought Sean was really cool, and now I realize he's just stealing from Amanda Bynes.
She shaved half of her head recently.
She's done a lot more than that recently.
Well, I mean, besides the DUIs, let's top it off by, let's do the Skrillex thing where you shave half your head, and it's just like, oh yeah, that looks pleasant.
She, yeah. I was about to talk about more celebrity gossip, but this is not Project Amanda Bynes.
Although that'd be cool if it was.
I don't know if it would be cool anymore. It might have been cool like 10 years ago, but
Yeah.
now it's just sad.
So I don't have unfortunately, my instructor of my writing class didn't sign off with a Batman line. Do you guys want to throw one in here at this point?
Why, did you try?
No.
Oh, you just didn't think?
No.
Okay, hold on. The batteries are dead.
Nice. Some guys really like Batman, and they had an epiphany. So they all got to work on the next Batman movie. And now they are the heroes, and you get to follow along. They're bringing him to life every week after this song. Batman, Project Batman. Project Batman. Fuck yeah.
Sure, why not?
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting process anyway, I think, because, I mean, I'm a big fan of the podcasting medium, and I've never heard of anybody basically, like, archiving a project from start to finish using that medium. It's like, we want it to be basically all the special features you'd get on a DVD documentary, you'd be able to follow during the development of something.
Yeah.
So, that's what
you're
this
just
is.
creating an evidentiary record that,
The
in
DC.
case this turns into a monster hit that we can all, sort of,
Oh, that's true. I thought you were talking about for like lawsuit purposes from DC and
That too.
Well, that too, but
And
so
he
we
did
can
agree
get
to
a cut
give
of the
us
profits.
each 10% of the profits,
Oh, that's
right?
great.
Yeah,
Yes.
and the gross profit, not the net.
Oh, okay, good.
That's-
Luckily for me, nobody's profiting at all on this movie.
Luckily. Yeah. Okay. Right. If we've set the ground rules, I don't know. Should I take the lead here, or how do you want to handle it?
I just wanted to ask, first of all, is everyone generally familiar with the Batman world? Like those characters?
I knew
Generally.
Batman, but I didn't know the Batman with the funny name.
Okay.
Ra's-
Ra's al Ghul. Yeah.
That guy
Ra's al
I never
Ghul.
heard of.
Yeah, I knew Batman, Alfred, Commissioner Gordon.
Okay.
Robin is dead.
Okay, yeah. This takes place...
Spoiler alert.
It does take place after... between the two animated series that the DC's produced. And actually, I'm sorry, that's not true. Joker's dead. Robin got his mind erased by Joker, and so he's not in the business anymore. And Batman feels really bad about it.
Okay. I'm a little behind.
That's why I brought it up, to see if there were any questions.
So he'd be
Well,
like in the insane asylum at whatever Arkham or whatever that is.
I think he did have, well, since Bruce is rich, I think that he could pay for very special care for him for a few years. But yeah, it shows him years later in the Return of the Joker movie, and he's just like been through a whole lot of therapy and is just a normal dude.
Is the animated series different? I don't know, in tone, or how is it different from the live action, which is what my frame of reference is, because I haven't seen the animated at all. And that may impact some of my notes, because this is to be an animated.
Yeah.
Okay.
The animated series, this based off of, started running in I think 92 maybe to 97. That's my guess. But so it was coming off of the Tim Burton movies. Which were Batman and Batman Returns. And I think the only major note they had when going in to create the show in the first place was, we can't have Joker be Jack Nicholson-esque. We want him to be his own thing. But other than that, I think they were just drawing off of the gothic tone of those Tim Burton movies.
So was this the one that was Mark Hamill was the Joker?
Yes.
Okay,
Well, that's an interesting bit of casting, since his face got rearranged post Star Wars.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
No.
He was a big
It's a car
traffic
accident,
accident.
yeah.
Oh, my
And
goodness. I didn't know
and
that.
he ended up with a lot of surgeries and not looking like he did in Star Wars.
And now he's going to be Luke again.
Yeah. Interesting. All right. So, with that preface, anything else? Should we?
I guess not.
Okay. All right. Let's see the heat. All right. Well, I'll take the lead. I like this a lot. I like the action. I like the dialogue. This is not to say that. I like the pacing. Not to say that I don't have a lot of notes, but my overall read on it was, the pacing felt right. Now, again, that's for. I was thinking of it as live action. Now I'm realizing it's animated, and so I'm not as familiar with that world of pacing. It may be different. There may be a lot of sort of jump cuts or things that are, not resolved, or things that are in the backstory. But, all in all, I just thought it was really well done. But as I say, I have a lot of specific kind of scene notes and character notes. So, I don't know, should I just dive in, or people want to speak sort of more generally first, and then we sort of get into specifics?
Oh, I'd love to hear your more detailed critique.
I had one general question before we started.
Yeah.
You kind of opened the door for it. As I was reading it, going through the dialogue, I was thinking about the animated versus the live action. And I wondered if, in an animated feature, because it seems like a bunch of the cost is going to be in the actual animation portion, are they typically more dialogue heavy with less cut to scene to visually get a point?
Well, I don't know. And do you find that the Batman animated is more dialogue heavy than the live action films were? Or more visual, or...
Honestly, in like watching some of the episodes to get the feel for this as we were diving into it, I was really surprised by, like, there are a few episodes that are, well, obviously there are a few that are just action-packed because the kids love Batman, but there are a few that are just really dramatic and somber and barely any action and just sad. So I think they just write whatever any episode calls for. I don't think they really had any rules, like there had to be this much action or this much whatever.
Is the tone of the animated version more comic book-ish than the live action, or the same?
I would say it's... Have you seen the recent Christopher Nolan ones? Like, with Heath Ledger and Christian Bale?
Yes.
I'd say it's... Besides a few moments of levity that you can only get in cartoons, I'd say they're pretty close to that tone. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Diving in, your fade in unspecified house.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a little too unspecified.
Okay.
I think you need a better descriptor there. Maybe alchemist's house.
Okay.
You know, just something that helps the crew or the director or, you know, say, okay, that's that house.
Right.
Question on that, because he gives the year, right after,
Mm-hmm.
but should the period be in the description of the house, or is it putting that year, that very early year, in the super below it?
I think it's fine. Yeah, in the super. But I also said Ostia or Ostia, whatever it is. Do we know where that is? Is that in the Batman thing? I mean, is it like saying Transylvania?
No,
or...
It's going to come up why this scene is relevant later in the movie, and it's just supposed to be... I Googled outskirts of Rome, and that was the first city that came up.
Oh, really? Okay. So you could say Ostia, Italy, or Ostia near Rome. In other words, just give us a context so that we, sort of have the frame of reference.
Right.
These are nits, but, it's important. You don't want to sort of put a question mark on the page, just as unspecified would be, or Ostia.
Right.
Where, you don't want to give people reason to sort of break the process of reading it, or give them a reason to say next, know, and any little, nit can sometimes do that. So if it's Ostia, I said, was this in Romania or East Asia? Okay, so now you're telling me it's Italy. So that's good. They are very equaled in their abilities. I think you want to say something a little more, first of all, in better grammar. I said well-matched, equal.
Okay.
But again, that's, proofread just so people don't have a reason to say, oh, well, this is... In the descriptives, and I think the action is all good, but I needed some clarification as to what happens. I see he lifts the broken beaker to Raish's throat. Does he pour something down? Does he drink? So I would say lifts the beaker, but doesn't get it in, clarify that a little bit. Some of the action back and forth. At the bottom I wrote, good page 1, I think it grabs you right away. You're right into that world. In the middle of page 2, Rash spins around from his position on the floor to a standing position facing the alchemist's sword in hand. The alchemist's body falls from where it stood. The sound of something rolling across the floor is all that can be heard. Our villain has decapitated the alchemist. So this is happening off screen. What are we seeing?
Okay, yeah. The way I envision this, I didn't know how else to put it, would be sort of a shot from the knees down of the alchemist sort of on the right facing Raish. Raish facing away from the alchemist on his knees, like just panting. So we see all of Raish.
Mm-hmm.
Alchemist says whatever he says, goes to turn around. We see his body turn around, and Raish says, "As you wish." He whips around and stands up, so now he's on his knees.
Mm-hmm.
It's just 2 shots from the knees down, and then we see a body fall. And then the head rolls off screen. So, and then the reason I say we hear him resheath his sword is because it wouldn't be shown in that shot. I get that that's way more detailed than it's noted in here.
No, I don't. I think that's easy to put in a sentence or two. But are you not showing the decapitation because that's gross or it's offensive?
Yeah, it's a little intense. People will get it with the sound of the rolling, I assume.
Can you do it with a silhouette of the head or a little bit of some hair? Like something that's evocative as opposed to literal. Or the silhouette of head of the guy, against the wall or something like that.
Right.
I would just say he decapitates him.
Okay.
And if that makes somebody squeamish, then we'll shoot it in a certain way that will do it. But I think you're sort of giving up the directness of it for the sensitivity, maybe.
Maybe. I just assumed with the shot of the body falling, people would know he was dead, and we would just know Raish killed the alchemist.
Well, are you going to see his body falling with no head on it?
I just assumed the neck would be off screen.
Well, okay.
I understand the argument you're making.
I think you just might as well just say it,
right?
Not be, kind of sensitive to the feelings of the reader,
right?
Because the way it's filmed will be different anyway, and it will be sensitive to all those issues of head, gross. And the way you've written it now, at least, I think leaves. I'm just not sure what I am going to be seeing.
Right.
So I said, throughout this sequence, clarify the action. Be sure the reader knows exactly what's happening. Okay. Great stuff. Just clarify.
Before we leave the scene, I did wonder why the alchemist would turn his back on Raish.
Because he thinks he won. That was...
Okay,
Can I tell you, I had a guess about what happened that I don't think is right, but my assumption was that whatever was in the vial kind of made you brainwashed, or like, now he's going to be going along with the plan because he's been given the, what I'm saying? And so that's why I thought he was okay with turning his back on, like, okay, go do good things or whatever. It was some sort of brainwash chemical.
That's what I thought. I put a note in here asking if the guy's obviously immune to whatever the chemical was. Is his immunity important? Or is it? It's implied that he took the drug and the guy turned his back, thinking like you. I thought
that he's safe somehow.
He's on the team now.
Yeah.
But then it didn't affect him like it was intended to. So
right.
I thought, is the reason that it didn't affect him relevant to the storyline?
This is interesting.
Or he thought he was dead. He just thought he was dead. Maybe.
Yeah. My thought on this, and I guess this is why this is interesting, because I didn't think these aspects through, is, the importance of the vial Raish is stealing is a mystery to be revealed later. But as far as, like, the beaker he breaks on him, and he has chemicals all over him, I just figured that would just be some burning sensation.
Oh, it's not the same stuff as what's in the vial later.
Right.
Oh.
I just assumed
I assumed it was.
Yeah, they're like fighting around the lab, and one of them grabs a beaker full of something and just breaks it over his head. And...
Oh, I put that together.
Well, then if the vial is this important thing, to be dealt with hundreds of years later, right?
Yeah.
Then I think that needs some kind of moment or explanation at, the house
right
back in the 1400s.
Okay.
Why is this vial magical somehow or important?
And I don't know if this makes me, if I'm sounding like way too defensive or whatever, I'm just naturally responding to what I'm hearing is like, this scene is sort of like, the way I pictured it was just to sort of just draw you in and be like, what is going on? This is 600 years before our established like timeline of the rest of the story.
Right.
What is this?
Right.
in the final climax of the movie, which you guys obviously don't know, Ra's is going to explain to Batman why this scene is relevant. This scene is all about... It's the first time another man challenged Ra's al Ghul. And the mistake he made was letting Ra's live.
Mm-hmm.
And because Batman won't kill anyone, that's why Ra's believes he's going to fail. And Ra's whole agenda is cleansing the planet of humans because he believes they're evil, and he'll explain that vial is what cured most of Europe of the bubonic plague when it was in its heyday.
Oh.
So that's kind of cool, but you don't want to reveal even that portion of it for this scene, like he's working on this to try to... I mean, it might give some context or more context to what it's used for, or what, you know.
There's got to be some... All right, he walks away from this house after decapitating the guy with the vial.
Mm-hmm.
And then we see it again 6 centuries later.
Mm-hmm. Or a recreation of it.
Or 5.5. Okay, well, whatever.
Yeah.
But we've got to know... We may not need to know the chemical name of it, but we need to know, I think, why it's important.
Mm-hmm.
And why maybe he went to the alchemist's house to get it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think it's just a couple of lines, but I think you've got to somehow say something about it,
mm-hmm.
you know, or, you know, if there's a visual way of...
Well, maybe
can't think of it right
can
now,
you just have the close-up of the vial? I mean, just the camera time on it would signal it some, wouldn't it?
Yeah, like maybe have it just like a very clear shot of the vial when he goes to answer the door or something. Because with the opening lines between Ra's and the alchemist, before he ever walks in the door, before they ever start fighting, he's like, I forget what he says, he's like, what are you doing here? You know why I'm here. Mm-hmm. And to me, that creates a mystery of like, why is he here, to be explained later.
Well, the mystery, I think, should be then, what's the vial?
Okay.
Not, why are you here? He says, I'm here for the vial. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm here, you know. And then, well, what's that?
Right.
But that, you know, I think because if you're tracking the vial, I do think you sort of need to make some kind of reference to that being kind of the important thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would be my idea on it. Okay, I'm in page 2, Ra's. I keep asking, I'm sorry.
It's fine.
Ra's Fortress, unspecified time.
Actually, in the 3 Christopher Nolan movies, they totally mispronounce it. They call him Ra's al Ghul.
That's what I'm remembering that, and yeah. So this is okay. Fortress, unspecified time. Choose day or night, even if it's an inside location. You know, even if the time doesn't matter, you need to choose a day or a night.
Okay.
So.
I was just going to say, I liked the transitional visual you had of him walking away from the alchemist's house, and then he's continuing to walk away from us toward the map.
I made the same note. I thought that was a really nice transition.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Page 3, you have a slug line that's midnight. Just say night.
Oh, okay.
Midnight would be in the direction, you know, in the next paragraph.
Right, okay.
You know, I keep seeing this word continuous in all these slug lines from, you know, a few people, and I just have not seen that before and never used it, so I'm not sure what it is. I would just say night. And, you know, it's okay to set a master shot, like interior Joe's Tavern. That's fine. Night, you know, and just play the scene.
Okay.
And that's what you did, but, you know, angle or, you know, the shot from here, don't worry about it. Just give us a scene, which you did. In your first dialogue in Joe's Tavern, you wrote, he laughs, as a sort of actor direction. Don't need it.
Oh, okay.
This is something I see a lot. You're not the only one who does it, but they begin walking.
They walk.
They walk. And I'll come to a paragraph or 2 paragraphs where you use that a lot.
Okay.
So Don't,
Present time, all the time.
be as direct as possible.
Gotcha.
You know?
As soon as you said it, I was like, okay, that makes way more sense.
Yeah. I'm not going to begin talking to you. I'm talking to
Right.
you. Okay.
That
So,
active voice you still have to do
Absolutely.
that even with this. Yeah, sure.
you have a certain quota of words and you don't want to waste them or pull back on the impact of them by using a passive form. I love this intro of Batman at the bottom. I thought that was great. He's sipping from a mug. I said, beer?
I know. I wanted
Is that
to know
okay?
what it was.
And I realized later it was coffee, so just add coffee from a mug unless you're going to rewrite the whole mythology of what a good guy he is.
That's funny.
At the top, maybe we'd finally get a night off. I said, great line, good. Middle of page 4, you have a direction. Joe gives a line and says he exits. That's sort of playwright writing. Put that kind of description off to the left, over to the far left margin. That's where it belongs.
Okay.
Gordon, and so now I'm going to get just grammatically picky. Gordon says, thanks to you, believe it or not, speeding tickets and domestic abuse weren't the reason, wasn't the reason.
Okay.
Okay, because it's a plural.
I actually had something on that one.
Go.
I personally, I would recommend something other than domestic abuse. It's a little harsh to lump in with speeding tickets, and I think most cops would.
Right. Yeah,
see that as a pretty important part
that's
of
an
the
interesting
job.
point. I
So
sort of missed
I would
that.
go with litter bugs or something
Right.
much less serious than.
Yeah.
Yeah, this
I guess my only train of thought was compared to having to save Gotham from the Scarecrow, but
Yeah.
I see your point. And
Yeah,
totally.
it would be more like speeding tickets and jaywalking.
Right.
Because this sort of
Yeah.
diminishes domestic. Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
good
I
point.
didn't like the line, but I wasn't sure why until you just said that.
Okay, yeah, that makes way more sense.
Can I ask you a question about your comment about this is dialogue? So although I understand what you're saying about the grammar, I could still see somebody talking like that, and I didn't know if that was.
Well, if it's in character, it's okay. But Gordon is a pretty articulate guy, and so it just didn't
Okay.
sound right coming out of his mouth.
Okay.
I had no problem with characters who were ungrammatical
Right, and that's
if it's
for me.
within character.
Yeah. Yeah.
You've got a Batman saying you would have preferred to bring Scarecrow back to Arkham in tights. That completely went over my head. I didn't know what the reference was, so I wondered if the audience would. No, that just may be me.
Okay.
I assumed it was an inside.
Yeah, that's.
thing. I didn't
Yeah.
get it either.
But it must reference some previous
Yeah.
episode. Or,
Scarecrow's just another villain. Arkham's the city insane asylum,
Okay.
and Batman's wearing tights.
Okay. All right. Well, if you're comfortable, just know your audience,
Right,
and
that's
know
what-
what their sort of level of.
Yeah, that's one reason I thought this would be interesting, and I also was sort of worried about why I asked originally is because we're making a movie for fans of a specific show, so I
Right.
know that they'll understand it, but at the same time I do want it to be accessible, at least on. I don't want to include anything that takes away too much from anybody who's not in that core audience.
Well, could you use a more widely known villain? Maybe make a reference to Joker,
Right.
or
Yeah.
one that's more that I would have known.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking me.
He's in Batman Begins. He's in Batman Begins.
Yeah.
Oh, he is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Even I know that.
Okay. All right, so now we're down to the last line of dialogue, which references to Aaron's point of, is it okay to be ungrammatical? Because here's Gordon saying, stop projecting. It's like a psychological term, right? You diffuse every situation before we even get there. Are those in character for him? Is that pretty highfalutin language for a cop? I know he's the commissioner, but... I almost wonder if you erred the other way
Right.
in that he sounds too articulate here.
Right.
And
How else would you or anyone suggest saying that?
I don't think you need it. I think you could just start with GPD is a safe place these days, and even Barbara, or whatever. You don't need all the language that you have there, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I wrote the exact same. Sounds odd. Is there a better line here, or maybe just delete it?
Okay. The you diffuse every situation before we even get there. That line has to stay in there somewhere, because then the next scene, Batman's gonna go to stop some robbers, and he'll be leaving after getting shot as he's hearing sirens approach, and he'll say, "Sorry, Jim." So that line I do want to stay in there.
Yeah.
Because of that contrast of that.
No, I saw that, and but still,
I get what you're saying with the projecting line.
You may want to change both of them. If diffuse doesn't sound right here, and you want to reference it in the next scene with Batman, maybe his line shouldn't be diffuse. I mean, can you say you
take care of everything?
Yeah, take care of, you do our job.
Yeah.
Before we even arrive.
Right.
Then the next scene, I did your job.
Right. Okay.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the whole exchange though with the characters, and it shows the relationship between them. And you think of Batman, you don't think of him sitting down comfortably in his tights, drinking out of a coffee mug. And it just shows the level of comfort he has with this guy. Mm-hmm. I think that really made the two characters click.
Thank you. I also don't know if anybody caught it, but it's supposed to be a reveal at the end of the scene.
Go get him, Bruce.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That Gordon knows who he is.
He knows, yeah. I was surprised by that. But I thought it was great. Yeah, it is a good scene, and they really, have an interesting relationship here. And what I liked about, just to go back to the macro notes, is it's a very interesting situation of them aging. What's life like for the aging superhero? And, Gordon is having the same set of issues. Mm-hmm. So I think that's really well set up and very interesting.
I'm glad that resonates, because that's essentially
kind of take on the thing.
That's essentially what the entire story is about.
Yeah,
Batman's getting older.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's a great story to tell. Nitpicky notes again on page 5. Gordon's radio goes off. That's a place where maybe radio should be in caps, because that's kind of a sound cue. Right. You have the dispatcher having a line. That should be voiceover probably, because we're not going to see the dispatcher, so paren VO. We have reports of 2 suspicious figures approaching Gotham First Bank and Trust. This may be the civil libertarian in me, but if they haven't even committed a crime, would Batman really jump up and vanish? I mean, I'm thinking that they ought to be, and this will go to the next scene as well. They ought to already be in the bank. Okay, yeah. And committing a crime.
Vincent and Sean and I were debating on this transition very specifically, because we didn't know if it seemed natural to be like, okay, someone's broken into the bank, cut to people not having broken into the bank yet, and then they break into the bank.
Why not have them in the bank? Why not cut to interior bank, and they're having trouble not breaking into the bank, but breaking into the cash drawer or finding something, or you can futz around with them in the bank already.
I like showing Robert One's resistance to the situation before they even busted in, though.
Okay.
You might be able to do that with dialogue, though. That's once they're in, and they presumably would have set off alarm. He might be able to say something like, I knew we shouldn't have done this in the first. We shouldn't even be here in the first place. Mm-hmm. But I had the timeline wasn't meshing up for me, because the robbers were approaching the bank, and it seemed like they were just in there for 5 seconds, and then Batman's on the scene. I was trying to, how did the radio goes off, they're just going in, Batman's there. It didn't quite mesh.
Right. I hear you. We were having trouble with that too.
I mean, I guess you could. I don't know how disjointed you want to make the previous scene, because it might be better that it stays continuous. But I guess you could find a place where you've handled one bit of business in the scene, and then go to the bank, and then come back, and then I don't know if that's too complicated for what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, I would avoid that. I mean, it's a good relationship scene.
Yeah, it might break.
And you don't want to break that up. And we know that these, you give the word that something's about to happen at the bank. I just think you ought to be a little farther in the process.
Mm-hmm.
Because, Batman is not going to jump up and respond to maybe a crime might happen.
Right.
Or maybe they're trick-or-treaters. I mean, so...
No, that's a very good point.
Yeah.
And how's it been done in the past? Because I like this scene because I was like, oh, I recognize this type of action taking place with Batman. There's always bad guys are out there doing something. There's an alert, and he goes and gets them.
Right.
So there must be previous examples of how they. Well, it was the sign, right? It was the Batman. Wouldn't the Batman sign come up? I think you could get these guys in the bank. You're right about the alarm. You know an alarm's going to go off. But there could be another alarm on the vault. I mean, there's an alarm there's an alarm that could go off when they get into the bank. That's the overall alarm, and then an alarm as they get closer to the vault or something like that. Because it is good dialogue. They're freaking frack. I mean, it's really great.
Well, here's an idea. Maybe it works or it doesn't. But, okay, one of them has cold feet. Doesn't think it's well planned. The other one's trying to reassure him.
Mm-hmm.
So we meet them inside the bank,
mm-hmm.
and the guy says, "See, the alarm didn't go off. See, and the guy says, and then suddenly, trying to reassure him that all's well. Then the alarm goes off.
Right. Okay.
So then you've got one guy is sort of not on board. The other guy is.
Yeah, that I like that because. And maybe we're thinking way too directorially since I'm writing this with the director of the project
mm-hmm.
because we wanted to have the scene begin without the alarm going off.
Right.
And then once it goes off and it flashes that bright red,
right.
I mean, that's a metaphorical alarm. Batman's
right.
about to get shot in the chest. Like, I wanted some visual change between the scene starting and then them getting there and Batman stopping them.
Yeah.
But I like your suggestion a lot more.
Yeah, have them, sort of have a little conversation about how well it's going.
Yeah.
And then, oops.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, I like that.
So, I'm jumping ahead to page 7 if people want to.
Can I ask you a question about 6? I don't know if this is in line with how he would normally do things, but it seems like since the door was open that he didn't need to crash through the window. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he could just walk through, but maybe that's kind of part of, it's okay that if he breaks that rule, or he doesn't really care if he's as long as he can surprise them and get the, I don't know, it's fun. I like it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd rather see him crash through it.
I didn't make that connection.
So
I didn't either. But I think that's one of the anti-Batman people's arguments is that, he helps people out, but what does he destroy in the process?
right. So I don't know how much of a law follower he would be in this situation. Like, I don't.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, my son is a huge Batman fan, and I'm always teasing him. Batman's a great guy, and so on. And I always have this tongue-in-cheek conversation with him about, why not let the criminals destroy Gotham City? Because Batman is destroying it just to capture them. It's like we had to, destroy the city in order to save it.
Right.
Anyway, okay, I'm on page 7 at the end of this. After he's been shot, a total nit here. You have sirens approaching. That's a caps, so maybe capitalize it because it's a sound cue.
Mm-hmm.
But then at the end of this scene, where Batman, is reeling, right? I mean, he's been wounded, seriously wounded.
Mm-hmm.
Using his grappling gun, Batman exits through the window he entered from. My note was, this cries out for a description of his struggle to survive and leave. I mean, this is a seminal moment, in the Batman mythology.
Right.
It just, he's got to be crawling, he's got to be gasping for breath, he's got to be almost unable to get out.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like he's a criminal about to be caught by the police as they come in.
Right.
He's got to get out just in the nick of time, and how's he going to do it? He can't. I mean, I would really milk this for, incredible drama.
I see what you're saying.
This is a great moment.
I was trying to do a little of that in the moment before that when he gets up to catch the robber before he's leaving.
Yeah.
But to really underline that while he's exiting makes...
Yeah, I mean, this has got to be a triumph of his will and determination.
Yeah.
You know. And a director ought to, make a meal out of it.
Right.
This is a big thing. Okay. Into your Batcave later, Alfred. You have the sound of an engine approaches rapidly as a sentence, and then the Batman skids to a stop. So we don't need this sentence about the sound of an engine. I mean, that's implied in the whole thing. So, and that's just part of, if it's not adding to the whole thing.
We don't need it. Right.
I had a problem, or a note, I guess, now that I know it's animated, and maybe there's some differences, with the way you portrayed Alfred. And I haven't seen a Batman movie in a while. I guess the last one, was a couple of years ago?
Well, there was one last year.
Was there?
Yeah. Dark Knight Rises.
I did see that. Okay, so it was last year. But
I understand why you forgot.
Okay. No professional courtesy there to the Christopher Nolan. Alfred seems kind of wisecracky in this to me. Less kind of Michael Caine-ish, reserved,
And
English.
the slang, like kick the bucket.
Yeah, that I
rings
was completely circled. Yeah, didn't quite ring true.
Okay.
So, if it's the same Alfred, then you can't kind of make him a different Alfred.
Right.
Even if it's animated, Of course, you're also you've got to respect what animation has come before you, right?
Yeah.
Because you're going to be in it. So if he's wisecracky in that, then it's okay, but you can't make it different. Okay. His cowl is removed. Batman's. His suit is visibly bloody. Angle on Alfred as we hear the tray of food hit the ground. That seemed un-Alfred to me. I see Alfred as, here's what I wrote. Given all their years and time together, this may be an overreaction and not in Alfred's character. Isn't he always cool, calm, and collected?
That one, no, I don't know. I mean, I agree with you on the other portrayal of Alfred, but here, if he's aging, then his injuries are going to be more of a concern to Alfred than they would have been in earlier times. So maybe he would do that.
Maybe. I just didn't, I didn't see it, to be honest.
Also, I don't think Batman's ever straight up returned with like a hole in his chest with blood pouring out.
Yeah.
So, I
maybe.
don't know.
Just felt un-Butlerish to me, un-Alfred to me. That's, but if it's okay, then that's okay.
I've got a question. I guess it comes back to when the suit that Batman is wearing, is it bulletproof? So when he gets shot in the chest, is it just kind of a shock to his system, or is it actually piercing him?
We discussed this. Vincent really wanted him to get shot in the chest for the visual of it, and he made the argument of like, I don't know, he named off some movies where someone gets shot in the chest and they're like, well, it went straight through, didn't hit the heart or whatever. But
but Don's question is, can the bullet even penetrate the suit?
No, I don't think his suit is bulletproof. I think he's just always been so ninja-like that it didn't matter.
Okay.
Well, I had the same question, I must say. And I mean, if cops wear bulletproof vests, it would seem
The one
Batman
in the
would
movie
have
seems
to.
like it could be, to me. But the one in the animated series that he's referencing, maybe not, because it's more
tight fitting, like
flowing and
Right, and if you notice,
like
I mean,
referencing.
the next suit that he puts on is filled with armor.
right.
So that's a response to that.
Well, okay, so
Covered with.
in kind of, I don't know, the library of Batman stories, he must have been shot previously. Now, did those penetrate or did they bounce off?
Like I said, I just always think he's such a ninja that it doesn't matter.
Well, I guess if you could just clarify, because when I read this, I was thinking, well, the bullet hits him square in the chest, but it's just, kind of knocked the wind out of him. And so that's what I carried into the next scene.
Right.
And so I didn't realize the severity of his injury. And I thought, that Alfred was just kind of taping up his grazed arm. I didn't realize it was that serious. So just clarify.
Right.
Yeah, that's an important plot point. So you have to, kind of respect your
Right.
predecessors.
No, yeah, I
As
never really
to-
thought about that. Do you guys think it would hold as much gravity for him to get shot elsewhere? And it be as big a deal when he gets
I like
back to
the
the
chest.
cave?
I like the chest. If I know it's really injured.
Well, he has some of his face exposed. I mean, would you want to shoot him in the face?
I mean,
In
he
the
doesn't have
neck?
his face exposed when he gets shot.
He what?
He does his.
Well, I mean, even with his cowl down, there's cheeks and
Mhm.
a little bit of neck. Maybe it's,
Neck.
this incredible shot where it just hit him right where he was exposed.
Right. Yeah. These are all great points and suggestions that I will be bringing up.
Well, does Alfred do any surgery, or since he has this bullet in him, is he meant to do a surgery on him in some way?
Yeah, I mean, there's always footage of him, of Alfred wrapping him up.
Okay, but you just don't get the detail of whatever he's tries to help him.
I had a question about that in the transition. He pulls into the back cave and he helps him out, and there's an operating table right there. I didn't know if they left the room or if they have an operating
Yeah, everything is in the
room
back cave.
right next to the
Everything he needs. Batman's in this massive cave.
Train station, airport.
There's there's an airplane, a race car.
The ultimate man cave.
It's gonna be Batman.
I can't argue that.
Okay, well, that's, just, we talked about verisimilitude, I think, is, do you know the
Sounds
word?
right. I
Do you
don't
know the
what
word?
it means.
About whether, in the writing of a story, is it the way it would happen, to Batman? Now, obviously, we're in a fictional story, but there is, a whole fictional world and set of rules that's been established that you have to respect.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking about police last week. Would the police really do that?
Mm-hmm.
Because, in writing a story, you can't give people a reason to disbelieve. You have to always have them suspend their disbelief.
Right.
So if you go, aha, that wouldn't be like that. So, I mean, you just have to know the history of the
Which is the
thing,
reason.
the ground rules.
Which is the reason a bunch of people hated The Dark Knight Rises.
Oh, yeah? Is that right?
I mean, I have problems with that aspect of it.
So it made changes to or took liberties with the whole story.
Batman wouldn't stop being Batman because his girlfriend died. I mean, the whole reason he became Batman is because his parents got shot.
Right.
That's a good point.
He wouldn't stop being Batman for 8 years and just let crime keep going.
It's not very manly.
Good point.
From the first
Good
5 minutes
point.
of the movie, I'm like, this is not a Batman story.
Very good point. I wonder if anybody made that to them. I'm sure somebody must have. Page 8, it's been pointed out, Alfred says, till I kick the bucket. I wrote that sounds very un-Alfred. Batman says, I can't do that. Alfred says, right, more fair for me to watch another Wayne get killed. I said, good idea, but need a crisper line to nail the thought. Just really bang that on the head, and I didn't think that was sort of the line that did it. Then, let's see, Batman says, no, not after what happened to Tim, who, lost his mind? He had his mind erased?
Yeah, basically he was helping Batman.
Bummer
So
for him.
Shit happened.
It seems like they're having a dialogue back and forth, Batman and Alfred. It might be, I was thinking, kind of good for Batman character to just have him kind of muse almost to himself, without having Alfred reply, like Alfred's listening and watching.
Mm-hmm.
And, you might just get more depth of character there.
Mm-hmm.
Because the information is not that important. It's more the character.
Right.
And, Batman's really having this kind of existential moment. I'm old. Am I still Batman? Can I keep going on?
Mm-hmm.
Just let him play that out a little bit, maybe.
Yeah.
Rather than have back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
Yeah, I think the way I envisioned this was sort of a focus on Batman, and
Mhm.
Alfred's just sort of being there for him, and yes, he's
Okay.
responding, but it's about what's going on in Batman's head.
Okay. Well, another reason I made that point is because of what happens. Where is it that Alfred goes nuts?
Oh, that's the very last thing.
Okay, I'm jumping ahead to this because it references, the scenes before.
Mm-hmm.
But if Alfred's kind of quiet throughout and kind of watching this process, Batman go through this journey, is he going to go on? Is he not? How hard is he going to work it? Who am I? Blah, blah. The whole hero questioning. If he's quiet and then erupts at the end, it could be extremely powerful. Where he's not saying anything and then he explodes, almost in an un-Alfred way. Then he's earned the right to do that.
Yeah.
And it could just be, oh my God, it could just, both for the audience and for Batman.
Yeah. I was still trying to make it play like that. Like, in my head, I feel like I'm coming across way too defensively. So
No, it's fine. No,
Okay.
this is the way the process works.
Okay.
Because we need to know, what you were thinking.
Okay.
And so it's not offensiveness and defensiveness.
Okay.
It's, just talking it through.
Yeah. I think in my head, before Alfred erupts, he's never really suggesting anything to Batman. I mean, I'm sure since 20 years ago, since Batman started this whole thing, Alfred hasn't wanted him to do it and has suggested he stopped 1,000 times. So all of the responses or everything in that first scene between Batman and Alfred, which is a week before the latter scene, that's just Alfred just going through the motions. He's just responding, not expecting a result. He's got to entertain himself with some conversation somehow. That's where my head's at.
Okay.
So later, when he actually does say, "Hey, listen to me and do this," it's still in the same vein of what you're saying, and I hope it still plays that way. But maybe it didn't play that like.
Okay, and my response to that would be if he's kind of dissipated that energy by having that kind of conversation in the 2 or 3 pages before that, it takes away from the power of the eruption at the end. If they've been having that conversation throughout, then can he really erupt as though they haven't been having that conversation? Anyway, just think about it. That was my take on it. That, if Alfred is kind of, I'll let you go through your process, and then he gets to the wrong place, Alfred thinks, you've made the wrong decision.
Right.
And then erupts.
In the first scene, Bruce just arrived at the Batcave.
Right.
And he hasn't really made any decisions about anything. Alfred's just being there for him, as he always has been, and, catering to his wounds and all. But in the latter scene, he almost just had a heart attack, and he's about to go halfway around the world to this place where we just saw a city get annihilated, basically.
Right.
So in the latter scene, that's why his mood has completely changed to me.
Right.
It's like it's not carefree as in the first one because Batman wants to go investigate some serious shit. Does that make sense?
It does, but I don't want to beat this to death, but it just feels like bickering for a couple pages almost. The stakes aren't that high, but they really are that high, and that's what the explosion comes to mean. So, the more you sort of dissipate that message through bickering, it kind of takes away from the dramatic impact of the explosion. Not a huge thing. It's just where I'm coming from.
I just don't know how to get Batman's feelings out there. Like, Alfred's the only person he really talks to in the world, so I didn't know how to get where he's at mentally out there without him talking to Alfred, and Alfred's not gonna just not respond to him.
Wait.
Oh, I just had a thought that it may not be useful, may be useful. I would think that Alfred at some point has given up arguing with him, and he's like, I'm just here, my job is to service whatever you need, and because it's like reverse psychology kind of thing going on, you know what I'm saying? He says, I don't want you to do this, he's going to do it, and whatever, so I just wonder if if maybe he would play it in a different way against Batman. You know what I'm saying?
I didn't notice it until you mentioned it, but then I went back and reread page 8, and Alfred is hitting him on the age almost every every line. He's, time is a kind. Why not give it up? More fair to watch another living get killed. You're pushing 50. Sometimes we'd rather not admit there are too many signs to ignore. So it does sound like he's just constantly picking at him. And maybe it would be a little more subtle if he just drops in one line about, time isn't kind.
Mm-hmm.
Pause to any of us.
Yeah.
And then get on with his work.
Good point.
A
Move
little
on.
more subtle.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And then that way, like you said, later, when he blows up, you know that Alfred's been stewing about this and he just can't take it anymore.
Right.
And the other thing I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh,
Continue.
I think maybe if Alfred's a little more quiet, then you can get a little more into what Batman's thinking, because down here he says, I just can't quit, I need to do something. I'm not sure why he can't quit. Like he knows he's getting old. He was almost killed.
Mm-hmm.
And he's lamenting that, what's next? And he says, I have to go on, I have to go on. I know his parents were killed and the story, but in this case, it seems like something is really driving him beyond that. And I wasn't sure what, wasn't sure what it was.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a note here saying, the second time he says, I can't quit, I need to do something. I thought, well, what's pushing him here? And I didn't know if there was something else deeper, or that's what I took out of that.
Very well noted. My only response to that, right now, I totally will address that in the script, but is that I just think Batman's just afraid to not be Batman. Period.
Because he doesn't know
That's all
how
he's
to
ever.
be anything else.
Yeah.
Well, you might have an opportunity here for a lot of visual time with Batman where there isn't any dialogue, where, he's struggling to get in the suit, he's struggling to make it work, it's not working, he can't do it, he's straining, and, you may not, you've already raised the age issue,
Mm-hmm.
so you may not need any more dialogue between them. You could just do it all visually off their faces. Batman straining, Alfred, Batman, Alfred.
Yeah. Yeah, I get
it's
that.
You don't have to do it through dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, dialogue's the last resort.
Mm-hmm.
So
show don't tell. I get you.
okay, I had a few other Alfred notes, but we pretty much covered them. On page 10, I was thinking this was all good. But again, use direct verbs. You use they begin to appear all around him. He begins moving.
Mm-hmm.
He begins to miss. He starts yelling and begins helping Bruce remove the suit. Okay. So you could tighten that up and make it much more direct and active.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Everyone get what I was trying to do with the Paris thing, with the biplane?
Well, I had one note. So the opening scene, the biplane is a toy,
Mm-hmm.
and then partway through, a large metallic sphere falls. When I heard large, I pictured large, and then it says the boy looks down at it. So then I thought small, and then when we get back to the biplane, say it flies away, and I'm thinking, okay, is that the toy biplane, or is this a real biplane that maybe dropped the sphere? So I wasn't quite. I love the image of the biplane,
Mm-hmm.
how it begins and ends with it. But there were some points of confusion in there.
Yeah. The way I envisioned it would be you'd see a biplane against like the sky, and then it pulls out and it's just a kid.
And I like that.
Yeah. And then as he's running through the park, just something metal falls on the ground. Like, we don't even really see it. We just see something solid fall in front of him, and his face be like, what? And then, cut to the aerial view of Paris. It doesn't even matter what it looks like, unless you guys think it does. But
I would like to know where it came from, I guess, but I don't.
That's for the biplane.
But like real biplane.
Yeah.
So
So
the
after
final shot.
the final shot of the Paris is an actual biplane.
Okay.
Flying.
Okay, I just needed clarification.
Okay,
Because
yeah.
okay.
And this is modern times as well. But, I mean, I think that's okay, but like biplane in 2013, I don't know. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like maybe it'd be a different kind of plane. I don't know if it really matters.
Right.
Just so you know, it's not years ago as opposed to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, that I missed that. Sorry, my bad. So there's a biplane that's a toy, and then the real biplane at the end. Okay, so why? Why do you set it up like that? Why would they maybe just be, oh, look, there's a biplane up there. Oh, loop to loop. It's just flying over. Mommy, look. And then it drops this bomb, I guess, this orange gas bomb.
I guess I don't know. I guess I just wanted to go directly from an image of everyone having fun to a kid with a metaphorical question mark over his head, which makes the audience have a question mark over their head, to death.
Right.
It's just a really sudden transition that I thought might play.
Well, okay, so let's say he's, doing the radio control biplane, and then there's a real biplane, right? Mm-hmm. But we don't see that until the end of the scene. I mean, maybe reference it, oh, a real one.
I want it to be a surprise, though.
Can you get maybe some sound in there that doesn't show the plane, but you hear it's wow, that's a lot louder than this, zooming in on it.
Okay, as long as it links up and works, however you want to do it, but
or shadow the plane, or I don't know.
Yeah, I guess my thought in not revealing an actual biplane till the end would be to show that someone did cause this. This did come from somewhere, but we don't know what yet. Unless you're remembering that Ra's al Ghul in the beginning of the movie said he was going to attack somewhere in a week, but the toy biplane was just for the coincidence of the scene.
Yeah, well then that's what I'm talking about. Then play the coincidence. Oh, mommy.
Right. Yeah.
For real.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that fun? Oh, isn't that cool? I'll try to control that one.
Right. I see what you're saying.
The whole Paris scene, I think, would be more powerful if Batman knew somebody there.
I was thinking exactly the same. Like if he had a love interest that he, had developed or something, which would also give him a reason to want to quit. Mm-hmm. Or think about quitting what he's doing as opposed to dying as a hero in Batsuit. But could be a reason why he catch the Paris.
As the movie will go on, this will just continue to happen to more cities. Mm. So everyone would be reacting to the terror of this happening globally.
You just picked Paris.
Yeah,
as
pretty
the
much.
First one. Okay, yeah.
Pretty much. I just thought that seemed symbolically evil to have the city of love be the first genocidal attack.
And then you're gonna add to the hatred by the French of Americans, at least Parisians. I'm at the bottom of page 11. Alfred is trying to dissuade him from getting involved, right? Mm-hmm. From being Batman. And, my note was, wow, Paris is gone. Would Alfred really kind of say, stand down, this is not for you to deal with? I mean, a whole city, millions of people?
Well, Batman swore to protect Gotham. And there's a...
the heck with the French.
And there's a whole... I mean, again, this is one of those things where I just assume people are thinking about the universe that's already established, but there is a whole team of superheroes in the Justice League that...
Are taking care of it.
Yeah, that are...
French superheroes?
That gets back, this is why I asked the question at the beginning about the whole animation and the tone, because sometimes you've got the comic book tone with the really stupid robbers and the joke whipping Alfred, and then other times you have this deeper, with the boy and Paris, and the orange and the screaming. But the two together, I don't know. I have a little bit of a hard time with them both in the same script. The tone change.
I hear you.
Yeah.
On the...
It happens all the time. Not just in your script, believe me.
Just on the note of everybody mentioned the humor that comes from Alfred, I would argue that the humor comes from the exchange between Batman and Alfred in all of those moments, and not from Alfred himself. And I don't know, one of my big influences is Joss Whedon, and he's very, very good at doing all that. And the only reason I'll throw this out is because it was the biggest movie of all time now. So if anybody saw the Avengers, you'll know those are all very serious characters.
Right.
But the way they play in a scene, talking about serious stuff, one person will contradict the next person's line, and that creates a humor that isn't there in that moment for them, but it's there for us as an audience.
Right.
So that's sort of what I was trying to do with the Alfred and Batman thing.
And that's great. There's no problem with that. It's just a question of whether it's in Alfred's character, who is well known to already.
Right.
And, can you put that kind of dialogue in his mouth and still have him be Alfred?
That's what I'm saying, is the dialogue is no more than him being a butler and saying, hey, I just cleaned up, here's your food,
right,
and your parents are dead and I don't want you to die.
Yeah, well, if it works, I'm not
I'm not trying
you've
to...
had several people sort of raise the issue of whether it would be
that's
actually something that came out of the Alfred that we know.
Yeah.
So, take a look at it.
Yeah.
That's all.
Have you guys done a reading to see how it sounds?
Yeah. I had it slightly differently. Like, I wrote this by myself, and then we sat down and wrote it out loud, and they tweaked some stuff, and that's what we're reading.
So it sounds like in the last paragraph with Alfred's outburst, he's on board reluctantly, but says, sleep on it and I'll make you a big breakfast in the morning. Am I right about that, or is he not on board?
I think Alfred knows that Bruce is going to do what Bruce does, but he's afraid that he's going to go around the world and get killed, so let me take care of you one last night.
Right. Okay. Good. Good. Well, if that's so, then maybe you don't have to play Alfred as being opposed to avenging Paris. That really steps things up to a whole different level, where Batman must overcome his age and difficulties with the suit and all the stuff that's weighing on him to go on the quest.
Yeah.
So what happened to everyone in Paris? What is the orange?
Okay, so the reason Ra's al Ghul was alive in the 1400s and is alive today is because he has found the DC Universe's version of the Fountain of Youth, which is called the Lazarus Pit. And over these hundreds of years, he's been trying to find a way to get this enzyme and this Lazarus stuff to scientifically alter it to do the opposite of what it does to him.
Okay.
And he creates this stuff called Abaddon. It's Abaddon serum, Abaddon gas, whatever. And that's the weapon that he's releasing. So the vial that he takes in the beginning isn't necessarily the same thing that Ubu's handing him in front of the map. And I didn't realize that it played that way that it was.
I thought it was mass producing it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's a different thing. So I didn't realize that was an issue till you guys brought it up. But
I thought the stuff that the alchemist poured down his throat is what made him live into the. But people who know the show wouldn't know otherwise, and they weren't familiar with the characters, so they would realize that that wasn't the case.
And as the story plays out, I plan to have Ra's re-establishing how he's still here. You know how bad guys love to monologue.
I would just say that, as much as you have people who follow the story, there'll always be someone who's new. Someone always has an entry point into the series, so just keep that in mind.
There's one thing that I tripped over, and that's at the very end when Batman decides, sure, I'll take another night. That's after I've got to go, I've got to do something, I can't quit. And there he is, I'll take a day off. Especially, Paris has been wiped out, and that's I tripped over that. I think that's the only thing I really tripped on, is that he seemed so motivated and ready to go. And I wondered if that was were you taking that somewhere where he's having second thoughts now, or is his resolve somehow weakened? Is Alfred wearing him down? Is he going to go actually consider maybe Alfred's right.
Right.
It seemed like he's been working, and then all of a sudden he stopped and took a step back.
Mm-hmm.
I wondered if it seemed like that was a pretty big decision on his part. I didn't know if there was
To take that step back.
To take that step back and say, yeah, Paris is gone, but I'm going to take him right off.
Right.
Given how motivated he was in the earlier pages.
I think that moment that he sees Paris on the news and then turns around to walk to the Batwing, that's the same moment as if a woman were walking home and saw from down the street that her apartment building was on fire and she started to run and rescue her baby. It's like, seems hopeless.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just it's what he is to not think about anything else except go do that.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes Alfred saying, hey, slow down, you just almost had a heart attack,
Mm-hmm.
to make him look at the issues and go, whoa, maybe I can't handle this.
Okay.
So that's where I think this is very interesting. When you're writing something, you don't realize how much stuff isn't clear to people.
Would Alfred ever slip into Meticulous to get into
Would Alfred
or
what?
whatever?
Take a Valium.
He has to sleep now.
I like the new Alfred.
But that would violate his trust. I guess you can't slow down. Or you can't make me do anything I don't want to do. Because you're my butler.
Right.
Yeah.
I've got a question that I guess applies to any superhero script. And it didn't even dawn on me until I got to page 9 and we're back in the Batcave. And they're welding something and they take the welding mass off. And your description is Batman finishes welding something. And then they take the welding mass off. And I'm sitting here thinking, wait a minute, is it Batman or is it Bruce? And here it's Bruce. And I realized that I have sometimes in these scenes had the wrong image in my brain. You always refer to him as Batman, even if it's Bruce. And so it's almost a logistical thing. So, but I just wanted you to know that,
That's
that
a great
as a
point.
reader...
Yeah.
He's in the Batcave. He's Batman. I mean, come on.
But
But he's not wearing his
He's not in
suit.
do
Do
so
I
he's
write
Bruce.
Bruce as the
So
character?
otherwise, you have a mask and a mask.
it says Batman finishes welding. Yeah, no. And so when the mask came off, I was like, "Oh, that's hilarious! He's got his mask under a mask."
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then I thought, no,
He's
that's-
welding.
I did have that dilemma of once he's talking just to Alfred in the Batcave,
Right.
whether to write
Yeah.
Bruce as the character name.
Right, and I
Yeah.
was thinking, how...
I think you have to do that.
Yeah.
If he's not got his cowl on, he's Bruce.
Because I think it would help whoever's reading it to get the right image. And
Yeah, I totally
so
understand.
I didn't
And are we going to see him in his regular clothes? I mean, rich guy persona out in public, or
Yeah.
Okay. So I think that's always a convention, right? Yeah, they always show both of them. I think.
Yeah, he's gonna go out and try to find information out about all these genocidal events, and he'll go to banquets and stuff as Bruce Wayne, and
Buy up that cheap Parisian real estate.
And I keep seeing his business is going to profit from all this stuff. It's how it works or something.
More goodies for Wayne Enterprises.
Yeah, Wayne Enterprise.
for those of you who don't know, Talia is Ra's al Ghul's daughter, and she's the only woman that Batman's ever truly loved. And so it's this crazy triangle where the man who will not kill anybody but demands justice out of every aspect of life is in love with the daughter of the man who wants to kill every human on Earth. So Talia's going to meet up with Batman.
Small world.
Yeah, they're gonna. Talia's gonna meet up with Batman. They're gonna try to figure out what's going on before they ultimately find out that it's Ra's who's behind it. And
So that love affair is going on by the time this story starts.
well, Bruce hasn't seen Talia in years. And the last time that he saw her, she was on his side for a whole episode until Ra's showed up, and then Ra's was like, "Daughter, Talia, I need you to do this for me," and then she totally screwed over Batman. So their relationship story in this movie is about Batman, or about her regaining Batman's trust, and they fall in love again while they're going after Ra's. and at the end, ultimately, also Alfred dies in the script because he's not.
No.
He's not in the latter Batman
Cracked one
series.
too many jokes.
Yeah, that's right. He kicks his own bucket.
I did like the line he gives of macaroni night. I did like the line he gave of, I know how you look forward to macaroni.
That cracked
I did.
I thought that was funny. I
Yeah,
like that.
so, yeah.
That's a hard.
I did want to ask this. In relation to what you were saying, the too cartooniness. When at one part I was typing it and I laughed out loud because it was so silly to me, the visual, but I don't know if it'll play right. And that is the moment that, like, he's all stoked about this new mech armor suit and he's ready to, like, do his obstacle course training, and then he goes to, like, put it in the computer and start the program, but the fingers are too big, and then, like, he's like, ugh, and he has to, like, get the suit to, like, go all, like, you know, to suck up into
I love that.
retract.
I thought that was great.
I like
Yeah.
Okay, see, I didn't know if that would play or not, but okay.
Oh, you know, I think the more sort of human, you know, and the frustrations, you know, sort of small frustrations that get in the way. I think those are great. You know, they're fun. They build character. You know, it's, you know.
And they're relatable too. You
Yeah.
know, even though he's a superhero, they're
Yeah.
relatable.
Yeah. How do you make them?
I mean, anybody who's tried to type on an iPhone, you
Yeah.
know, or a BlackBerry, you know, just knows exactly what that's like.
Mm-hmm.
So,
It'd be funny if Alfred's like, yeah, I don't know how to use those things either, you know, because he really is old.
call the Geek Squad.
Can I ask you a question about you? I meant to print out the email. There was something you referred to in your email about Seifield and Page. What were you trying to say? Were you trying to say that you, like, developed some tension or something before page 10 or something like that?
Oh yeah,
or?
I was just saying that that the first act, or if the page 10's the big event, I think him getting shot happens on page 8 or 9. All I was saying was that if that screenplay outline book is going by a 2-hour movie basis,
Yeah.
everything in this is going to happen a little sooner.
Oh, right,
Well,
that makes
but
sense.
you're maybe, but you know, as I read the story and sort of envision it, and it's about Batman aging and will he carry on and so on. I have to look at what page 10 is, but that moment of him, coming back and with Alfred rededicating himself really would be, you know, the page 10 moment, not just getting shot, but coming back from the shooting and saying, I'm not too old, you know, I'm going to now do it this new way.
Right. I guess him deciding to make a new suit and Paris getting attacked was like my plot point 1, and him getting shot at the bank was like that page 10, just like big moment to kick things into gear, if we're putting it in that structure.
Yeah, we'll see it when you're done. How long is the screenplay going to be?
100 pages.
Do they do these as 90-minute,
The
2 hours?
If we're aiming for it to feel like those other movies, Mask of the Phantasm runs an hour 10, Return of the Joker runs an hour 20, so around there.
Okay, so then yes, everything would be shorter.
Mm-hmm.
So good work, very interesting.
I enjoyed it.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Thank you for
me too.
sharing it.
Yeah, very good.
Thank you.